we're going to murder the fuck out of the shit cause this tone is so tight and heavy. So just as always I'm gonna show you how to achieve this kind of sound, so let's do the shit. Just as always, we have regular ass double track here. 2 guitars, pan 96% left and 96% right routed to guitar's bus, and that bus is routed to master bus. Both of them shits has exactly same processing model, so we'll review only one of them. First thing in chain is reverb 4, so let's look inside of the shit. TS-808 screamer in front of amp. This way we focus the tone and make it bit more dry. And here we have 6505 head. You can see the settings of the shit, but I also tweaked schematics to get needed distortion coloring. It'll take a while to review all the shit here, so I just put this preset at the attachment. You can see that cab section is bypassed and you'll already know what it means. Keyfair impulse loader loaded with custom domain GTR impulse. Check this shit. Already sounds mad even without post-processing, so I'll put this shit at the attachment too so you can get the shit. So now both guitars goes to guitar's bus, and what we have here is C4 compressor. Using this shit to reduce muddy resonating low mids caused by palm muting. Check this out. Sounds just bit more clear with this joint. Next thing is this simple EQ which reduced 2 resonances on highs. And last thing in chain is this side chain compressor. This one is driven by multiple sends, but generally it reacts to kick and snare hits, so we free some space for it. And we also have just a bit of that send to big reverb. We're gonna use Trillion for bass sampling, so let's check that shit. Hardcore finger full range pause on the shit samples. Notice that all internal processing is bypassed, so amp section is bypassed too, and we only have direct signal with this level, cause we're gonna process this shit externally. Now I want to split this bass to 2 channels, so let me show you how to do the shit. Create 2 FX channels, turn off out of trillion, and then create 2 sends to them new FX channels. This way you can split the shit in real time. And that's what happens outside with them shits. We've got 2 bass channels, clean and distorted. Both of them shits routed to bass some bus, and that bus is routed straight to master bus. So let's go for them channels now, starting from bass drive. First thing in chain is TSE 808 Screamer, just to give it some dry focus. Check this shit. Second thing is bias, which I use for reamping. Use one of default presets, but tweak the shit out of it, so check out them settings. You can see that cab section is bypassed, and you all know what it means. Custom impulse here, which we need to prepare distorted part of bass for main cab that we have on bass bus. Our bass exciter to fatten up them lows a bit. EQ with high cut filter to soften them highs a bit, and this low ass filter, and I probably fucked up on this one cause this shit doesn't make any sense. That's it for bass drive, so let's move our asses to bass DI, y'all. When it comes to split processing of bass, I usually use clean part for low end, but in this case I do the shit opposite way just because I can. Using this DI channel to accent finger attack. So first shit in chain is EQ, cutting out unwanted low end cause I already said that we don't need it from here. Some of them little ass boosts around 250 and 4000 Hz, and high cut filter to get rid of unwanted clicks and shits. Mono delay to fix phase delay between drive and clean channels of bass caused by different processing and different amount of plugins. even though you can't hear much difference. Just trust me, I checked this shit using some of them science plugins to check phase correlation of shits. Now both of them channels goes to bass some bus. First thing in chain is this fire impulse. Just as always, you'll find all them cabs from this guide at the attachment. Next plugin is Black 76 by T-Rax. Using this one to make dynamics of bass more stable, and we also get some of the dope-ass 76 saturation. EQ. Slight drops on mids and highs just to put shit deeper in mix, and we also add some of them lows. NLS and mic mode to get some of that nice ass low end. Notice that we use dual mono mode, which means that left and right channels now driven by two different shits, and because of that difference we move our bass out of center just a bit, and that's awesome. And last thing in chain is side chain compressor driven by kick, just to put it deeper in mix. And we also have just bit of that send to big reverb. Damn, that was tight, and I bet some of you all recognize this tone, don't you? Yep, Behemoth drum kit, but this time we're gonna use it slightly different way. Check this out. Superior Drummer Metal Foundry is our main drum tone. We also use Steven Slate drums for kick triggering and additional Superior Drummer channel for snare triggering. So let's check them samplers starting from Superior. I'm gonna click the shit out of this kit so you can check names of used samples in this window. We're gonna process it externally, so there's no any kind of inserts and shit. We also using multi-out mode, which means that every mic or group of mix goes to its own outputs outside of Superior. This 3KD mix goes to SD kick channel, 4 snare mix goes to SD snare channel. Hi-hat goes to hi-hat channel. 3 rag toms goes to rag toms channel and 2 floor toms goes to floor toms channel. Booth overheads mix goes to overheads channel. And finally this 4 room channels goes to similar name channels outside of sampler. Just as always, I go nuts with setting up them bleed settings of each channel, but there's just too much of them shits to demonstrate, so you'll find this preset at the additional files. Speaking of slate kick trigger channel, there is kick 10 SSD. Here's the levels. And for snare trigger we use the snare. Notice that we only have these 3 channels from here, no room or overheads. Now let's figure out routing outside of samplers. SD kick routed to drums bus and that bus is routed to master bus. SSD KD trig routed straight to master bus. 2 snare channels routed to drums bus. Both of them toms channels routed to toms level bus and that bus is routed to drums bus. Hi-hat and overheads are routed to drums bus. And finally these 4 ambience channels routed to ambience bus which routed to drums bus. So let's go for processing starting from kick. First of all, processing model of this one is similar to the one that I used in my metal mixing guide number 4 where I explained all them 3 EQs. I know that it looks hard as shit, so instead of review them all I'll just do quick comparisons so you can understand how they change timbre of kick. And just as always you'll find all them EQ presets at the attachment. Notice output level on this EQ, I did this to get correct incoming level on NLS at the end. SSL compressor gives it some of that nice ass breath, especially when it comes to double kick parts. NLS at the end. Send to big reverb. SSD kick trig. Just limiter here. Using this one to gain RMS of this kick, cause I want it to be loud enough but don't want it to fuck up mixes dynamics when it comes to master compression. Check this shit. Punchy mode make it work pretty smooth. Send to sidechain compressor on guitars bus here. SD snare channel. Here we have the simple EQ. As you can see, we get rid of them unwanted lows, dealing with boxy mid-range and get rid of 2 ringy resonances. Check this shit. NLS at the end. Send to big reverb. SD snare trig channel. EQ with pretty much the same processing that we have on main snare, but obviously we have different problem zones here. Don't get confused about crazy output boost. I'll explain the shit when we'll go for drums bus. Next thing is envelope shaper, using this one to focus 40 milliseconds attack of snare, and we also get rid of them tails, because I want the snare to be tight a portion of main one. Sends to big reverb and sidechain compressor on guitars. Floor toms. First thing in chain is this complex EQ to get rid of them unwanted boomy resonances on lows and also smoothen up highs with slight boost. NLS at the end. Send to big reverb. Rag toms. Same work on lows and highs here. SSL compressor to take subtle control on dynamics. NLS at the end. Send to big reverb. And now both of them shits goes to Tom's level bus, which I use just as level controller for both channels. No any processing here. Hi-hat. Just this simple EQ here. Cut off unwanted lows and boosting the mids to make it fat. I kind of dislike presence of this hi-hat a bit, that's why we get rid of that shit here, because we can still get a lot of it from overheads and room bleed. overheads. First thing in chain, EQ. Low cut filter and high-end boost. CLA 76 compressor to give it some nice ass breath. NLS at the end. And also send to big reverb. Ambience. Speaking of the shit, single channels has no processing but this one. Main trick about it is this envelope shaper. It randomly reacts to some hits and focus their attacks, which makes this shit so awesome. Right after we have this EQ with decreased mid-range resonances for snare and also smoothen up that clicky high end, because obviously we've get a lot of clicks here after envelope shaper. NLS at the end. Now all of these 4 channels goes to Ambience bus. First thing here is CLA 76 compressor, which works in ALL mode and give it lots of distortion and compression. Y'all already know how it works. Next EQ here to focus mid-range of this channel. Notice boosted output for stronger incoming signal to NLS, which we have at the end. And now we're finally go for drums bus. As you can see here we have only this limiter, so let's check that shit. As you can notice, it reacts only to snare hits, and main reason of that is hilariously big level of trigger snare, except its attack. So if I let this shit pass through master bus, I'll face 3 problems. First, I'll get clipping from NLS bus. Second, master compressor will be affected much harder, which will make master compression dramatically obvious. And last problem is master limiter. Peaks of this trigger snare is so high that they can pass the fuck through the limiter and cause massive destructions in real world, like tsunami, tornadoes and shit. Man, I don't fuck with that. Of course I could just put limiter to trigger channel, but I tried this shit and it seems that limited trigger sums with regular snare or maybe room, and somehow peaks are still pretty big. So best solution that I come up with is locking the fuck out of them peaks on master bus. And finally, last thing here is this center bass sidechain compressor. So we have drive signal from loudest peaks of kick and snare, rest of stuff is too low to hit the shit. Speaking of space, processing model of this shit is pretty simple. We have couple of sends to this big reverb bus, which is our actual reverb in this mix, so this thing is responsible for space part of our mix. That's how it sounds soloed. Here's the settings. Right after we have this little EQ which cuts out unwanted lows to avoid of frequency conflicts with other elements of mix. After all of this, it goes to master bus. And before we'll finally go for it, take a look on them levels and panning settings for the entire mix one more time. First thing I want to show you is incoming sensitivity of master bus. I did this to have enough headroom on NLS bus and be sure that none of them peaks don't hit even -3 decibels here, otherwise we could get a lot of clipping. So input of master bus lowered down to 13 decibels, but we'll compensate it after NLS bus. So let's check that shit. Next thing is an EQ, which I put here just to compensate that headroom thing, but later I decided to do this little ass movements on highs and also cut off unwanted lows of side of stereo. That's why I boosted it to 15 decibels instead of 13. Next thing is matching EQ, which I use to match timbre of our mix to reference. Check this shit. Just as always, I'll put this shit at the attachment. Next plugin is Isotope Major, just to fix stereo a bit. Next thing in chain is multi-bin compressor. What I want here is to get control on dynamics of kick and snare, so I use mid-side mode and apply compression only to center of the mix. Regular stereo mode caused ducking of guitars during snare hits, so I decided to use mid-side shits and compress only center of the shit. Check this out. First band reacts only to kick hits, rest of stuff pretty flat here. Second band reacts only to snare hits, and let me show you what could happen if we let them loud peaks of trigger snare pass through drums bus. Check this shit. So now you know what that limiter does. Third band reacts for booth kick and snare hits. And last one reacts to loudest peaks on highs. And now limiter. Pretty extreme attack and release settings here. Transparent mode and output level is -0.4 to avoid of random peaks when it comes to bounce to MP3. So that's how we do the shit. For those of you who want to get an additional files pack, which includes Cubase project, pack of custom impulses used in this guide, pack of Pro Q presets, preset for Revolver 4, Isotope Ozone matching session, and Superior Drummer preset, you will find all of them shits in my private post on Patreon, which will be available after pledging $1. By doing this you will also get access for rest of my private content and help me keep doing what I do. Link is in the description. Hope you learned thing or two from this guide. See you next time.